Today, I want to talk about something subtle that I'm not sure everyone's noticed. Maybe they have. I don't really read a lot of discourse about romance novels, but I have seen that romance novels have evolved over time. I'm going to call it the emotional flip. Once upon a time, in historicals, classic contemporaries, early Harlequin days, Mills and Boon, the pattern was pretty clear. The man was emotionally shut off. The woman was open emotionally, available, waiting for him to catch up. The emotional climax of the story generally came when he finally admitted, often very, very late in the game, that he was in love with her. By then, it's extremely obvious to everybody else that he's in love with her. But, that is the suspense of the story. And it's always, I didn't want to love you, I didn't expect to love you, but I do. But these days, I have noticed that there is a real trend in romance novels. Perhaps the more alpha the male is, more often than not, he falls first, and sometimes he falls harder. In terms of the traditional dynamic, the slow burn, late confession, let's start with what used to be the norm. In classic romance fiction, the male lead was often emotionally unavailable for most of the book. He might be cold, distant, even cruel. He's very much an alpha male. The whole story is about breaking him down. The heroine's love, patience, or even just her presence gradually chips away at his defenses until finally he admits his feelings. That's the payoff. That's the win. It's the whole underlying premise of the novel. It was the fantasy of unlocking something that no one else could reach. The heroine was always the emotional key. The I love you came at the end and it meant everything because it was earned, withheld, rare. Sometimes it's tied with he finally proposes as well. Like that's often a thing as well that, he's held off on wanting to get married and or wanting to have a child. And then finally at the end, he's the one that decides, it is you, I want you. So let's flick to now, the new dynamic that we're going to call the pining alpha. Today's romance, we're seeing the opposite. The hero's all in early. Sometimes by chapter 2, he's already pretty committed. He's pining, he's fixated, he's clearing his schedule, he's introspecting, he's spiraling emotionally. So instead of the heroine waiting for him to feel something, frequently he's the one waiting for her to accept it. He is not the emotionally stunted one as much as she is. She's the one with trust issues, emotional baggage, or just a very strong and frequently overstated sense of independence. She's got goals, boundaries, questions. She's the one who's been burnt before. She's recently been divorced, or her boyfriend has cheated on her. And the guy? He's just standing there like, hi, yes, I'm emotionally available and already obsessed with you. Actually, I'll do that in a lower voice. Hi, yes, I'm emotionally available and already obsessed with you. So why did the flip happen? Why has this shift happened? I think it's because the fantasy has changed. In real life, women are often the ones doing the emotional labor. We're the communicators, the nurturers, the ones trying to talk it out, trying to get him to articulate his feelings, trying to get him to admit things. He's the one doing actions. We're the ones that are vocalizing. So, the new fantasy is simple and very powerful. What if someone fell for me first? Completely, obsessively, without hesitation, and I didn't have to chase, fix, or earn it. It flips the dynamic. Now he is the one proving himself. Now she is the one who gets to be unsure. Modern heroines are much more complex. They're not just damsels waiting to be chosen. They're ambitious, self-protective, and sometimes emotionally scarred. They've got good reasons to be cautious. So the emotional tension becomes, can she trust this? Is this safe? Can she believe him, or is he going to hurt her the way all the other men have? That makes his certainty part of the seduction. His emotional clarity is what makes him attractive, and not just his jawline. Also, male pining and man pain is considered hot now. There's apparently something very delicious about watching a powerful man unravel emotionally over someone. That slow burn used to belong to the heroine. Now it's the hero who can't sleep, can't eat, can't function. He's obsessed, he's undone, he's a complete mess in designer clothing, cleats, or tattooed arms. And romance readers love it. The emotional flip doesn't happen on its own. It's been helped along by another big trend in romance novels, the rise of the dual first-person POV. Now, instead of only hearing the heroine's voice, we're also inside his head. And that's where the fantasy really deepens, because we're not just told he's obsessed, we get to feel it. We get his thoughts, his longing, his breakdowns, his desperate attempts to stay cool when he's absolutely losing it. And this access to his inner world is key to making the whole he falls first arc work. It's not just about what he says, it's about what we know he's thinking. Although the fantasy of the male POV does have its limitations, because this is where it gets a little bit weird and it's a little bit funny. Because let's be honest, these male POVs are frequently written by women, and often they honestly don't sound anything like the real men in our lives. I'm not saying that real men aren't good and romantic and sexy and all that kind of stuff. A lot of the guys in my life are emotionally intelligent, kind and sensitive. They know how to express themselves. They know how to demonstrate love. But the men that I know don't think or talk like these neurotic, ugga-ugga, internally spiraling alpha males who are narrating their emotional crises in low, gravelly voices, like a spoken word poem. Like, if you ever listen to an audible romance novel, it's kind of embarrassing because the guys all sound kind of the same. Like, they're a bit breathy. They've got a low voice. They sound a bit constipated, to be honest. Like, I know it's supposed to be sexy, but there's a particular type of voice that the internal male dialogue goes along on the page and also in the audible narration. So in modern romance novels, the male POV is often this wild hybrid of emotionally tortured caveman, hypersexual inner monologue, and deeply poetic longing. He's ready to set the world on fire over a woman he's known for 3 days. He stares at the ceiling and thinks about her eyelashes, the curve of her cheek, the softness of her breasts, the way she smells. Like, women in these books are always extremely smelly, like in a good way, because the men can always smell their scent on bed sheets and in the air. And, I honestly hope that I don't leave my scent around as much as women in romance novels tend to. So it's not realistic, but emotionally it is very effective. And then you have the dialogue between male characters, which is often written like, "Bro, you gonna tap that?" and "Shut up, man, I'd die for her." So there's a lot of swearing, banter, bravado, but it's filtered through the idea of what a lot of female writers think masculinity looks like. It's extremely performative. Maybe some men talk like that, but I don't think most men would talk like that. But it's how a lot of women imagine they might if they were secretly full of repressed feelings and only were able to express them by way of fist bumps, sex jokes, and masculinity. And honestly, I guess that's part of the charm. Because when women are writing these heroes or male characters in these books, they are not writing real men. They are writing emotional fantasies that are wearing the bodies of men. I know that sounds a bit depressing. So in conclusion, when we talk about men falling first in romance, what we're really talking about is something a lot bigger. There's a shift in emotional power. There's a craving for emotional safety. There's a fantasy where the tables are turned and the women are the ones being pursued, protected, and chosen, early, fully, and unapologetically. And although the pining alpha might not resemble the men we live with, work with, or even date and marry in real life, he clearly represents something that a lot of women are still clearly longing for: certainty, intensity, devotion, and obsession without being creepy and unhinged about it. Just to finish this recording, here are 2 clips from some audible romance novels that made me laugh because of the intensity of the male.
Her lips were ridiculously soft and inviting beneath mine. I had to bite back the urge that rose up and took me by the throat to deepen, to take, to chase.
Our tongues met and tangled. Her breathy little moan against my mouth took me from aroused to stone. I finally felt it from her then, the desperation, the need, all wound up tight and trembling against me. Before I could think better of it, I thrust my hips against her, pinning her to the door.